studying together the 7 questions of Garuda from Charitmanas. These 7 questions and the answers give us a very beautiful description of what it means to be Hindu, to live a virtuous Hindu life, but in a broader sense, a religious life, because I think these questions speak to all human beings. So we have covered 4 of these questions. I'm hoping today that I'll finish the last 3. If I don't do these adequately, I have actually written a small book in which I have summarized these 7 questions. So Gita has these small books and she'll give one to each of you at no cost, as a gift of the 7 questions of Garuda. So I hope you remember the first 4 questions. The first one was Sabte Durlabha Kavana Sharira. Among the many physical forms of life in the world, which is the most desirable and which is the most difficult to obtain? And we saw the answer, Nara Tana. Samanahi Kavani Dehi. There is no form that is as good and as desirable as the human form. And the second question we discussed, Bara Dukha Kavana. What is the greatest suffering? The answer did surprise us, but we discussed this in detail. Nahi daridra sama dukha jagamahi. That in this world, poverty, there is no suffering comparable to that which is caused by suffering. The difficulty of having the very basic necessities for decent living. And third question, Kavana Sukha Bali. What is the high source of good and joy? And we saw Santa Milana Sabha Sukha Jagamahi, that the association with the good and the virtuous is the highest source of joy. They are referred to in this answer as the Sant Milan, Sama Sukha Jaganahi. And the fourth question, which we also discussed, follows naturally from the third question. Who is the Sant? If company with the Sant is the highest source of joy, who is the Sant? And we saw the beautiful answer. Par Uppkar Vachana Manakaya. One who is committed to serving others in thought, in word, and in action. Vachana Manakaya. Word, thought, body. So today we go on to the 5th question, and the question is Kavana Punya Sruti Vidita Bisala. So what is the highest good kind of action mentioned in the Sruti? So there are 2 important words in our tradition. One is Punya, and the opposite of Punya is Papa. Punya and Papa. So Punya describes those actions that when performed produce good outcomes for us, benefit us. They produce results, good results that we may experience later on in this life, and if not in this life, in a future life. So Punya are desirable, commendable actions that will bring you happiness, either later in this life or in future existence. And the opposite of Punya is Papa, means those actions which produce negative outcomes, either later or long into the future. So he's asking here, Kavana Punya Sruti Vidita Basala. Sruti is the sacred text, the Veda. What kinds of actions, which action is the most commended in our Sruti, in the Veda? And gives the very beautiful answer. Parama Dharma Sruti Vidita Ahimsa. Parama Dharma Sruti Vidita Ahimsa. That in the Sruti, Ahimsa, not causing harm to others, not injuring others, is regarded as the most virtuous action. Ahimsa. We have a saying in our tradition, ahimsa paramo dharma. Ahimsa is the highest expression of dharma. Ahimsa is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter. Krishna gives a list of virtues. Ahimsa is one of the virtues mentioned there. In the Yoga Shastras of Patanjali, when he begins with the yamas and niyamas, the virtues, the first one he mentions is ahimsa. Ahimsa, satya, asteya, aparigraha, brahmacharya. Ahimsa comes first, even before truth, which is interesting. Satya. Ahimsa comes even before truth. So there is an interesting story in Mahabharata, just on this point of ahimsa and truth. So there was this yogi who had taken a vow to always speak the truth. He would never tell a lie. So he was sitting outside of his small hut one day, and when he saw a man who was being pursued by robbers with ill intentions, and the man hid behind the hut of this yogi. And so the robbers came and asked him, "Did you see someone? Where is he?" So now he has made this vow to tell the truth always. So he told the truth. He is hiding behind my hut. Here you will find him. Although he could see clearly that they came with negative intentions, but he had taken a vow to tell the truth. Of course, that you can infer what happened. They found him, they robbed him, they harmed him. But the Mahabharata says that the yogi was wrong. That he put his vow of truth above the well-being of this man. He had other choices. He caused the harm towards this man by sticking to his vow. But non-injury is higher than truth, because sometimes, we tell the truth with wrong intentions. We can tell the truth, even though it is truth, but our intention is to hurt someone by telling the truth. We're not concerned about ahimsa. And I'll say more about that later. Now, ahimsa, I just want to pause for a moment with the word itself. It's what we'll call a negative word. Himsa means to hurt, to injure, and then in Sanskrit, in many of these words, when you put the before it, it gets negative. So himsa is to hurt, ahimsa is not to hurt or non-injury, sometimes translated as non-violence. We have many words like vidya is knowledge, but if you put the before it, you get avidya, which becomes ignorance. Similarly with jnana, jnana is knowledge, agyana becomes ignorance. So usually that particle means it's negative. So ahimsa is a negative word, means not hurting another, not injuring, not engaging in violence. So should I think therefore, well, as long as I can sit quietly in my home, I don't cause any problems to anyone, I'm not hurting anyone. Am I practicing non-violence? Mahatma Gandhi, who, as you know, was perhaps the most well-known practitioner of ahimsa in recent history, explained the meaning of ahimsa. And he said that in a narrow sense, it is a negative word, and it means not causing harm to others. But in a positive sense, and he says it's very important to keep both the negative and the positive senses of this word. In a positive sense, ahimsa is love. Ahimsa is compassion. Ahimsa is care for others. Ahimsa is active. When you think of non-injury, you sort of think more of inactive. But he said, but the other side is like a coin with two sides. And you need the two sides. One is not to cause harm to others, but positively is to care for others, to practice compassion, to practice love for others. So we must think of ahimsa as active love. That's the positive sense in which the word should be used. And so, coming back to the story for a moment, if we practice truth-telling, satya, then we must always be concerned about not hurting others. Because I could tell you something about yourself, which might be true, but it causes you great pain. And that's not ahimsa. So I could say I'm a truthful person, but if I cause pain to others every time I speak, then what is the value of my truth? I could say, I don't steal from others, asteya. But I could also be causing harm to others in other ways. So in everything that we do, what it means to practice ahimsa is to always think that I am not, in the words I speak, in the actions I perform, I am not causing pain to other human beings. And we have this very beautiful lines from Sri Ram in Ramayana where he says, Parahita sarisa dharma nahi bhai, parapira sama nahi adhamai. Parahita sarisa dharma nahi bhai. To do good to others is the highest dharma. Parahita sarisa dharma. To do good for others is the highest dharma. Parapira sama nahi adhamai. And causing pain to others, there is no adharma that is as low as causing pain to others. Nirnaya sakala Purana Vedaka. This is the teaching of all. He said, this is the teaching of all of our Shastras. That to do good to others is dharma. To cause pain to others is adharma. So I think it's a very beautiful summary that Sri Ram gives. Pragmatically speaking, none of us can live without causing some hurt to others. If I stepped out of the mandir's door, there may be an ant in my path that I don't see. I may step on the ant. I think living in this world, it is almost impossible not to cause some hurt, some harm to others, intentionally or unintentionally. But ahimsa is, the practice of ahimsa is trying to minimize violence in our lives, in what we say, in what we do, in how we think. So I think practically we think of ahimsa as the minimization of violence, not its complete overcoming, which is impossible. We have, in India there are monks belonging to the Jain tradition. Just the example that I gave of walking out. They carry a very soft broom as they walk, and they're always sweeping the path ahead of them to ensure that there are no tiny insects or bugs that they don't see. Even when they sit, they will dust the seat to make sure they're not crushing insects. But if we all try to do that,
the place will be very clean.
They wear masks over there, like they're in a permanent COVID state, but the masks are meant for the purpose of not breathing in tiny microscopic.
Yeah.
They will not light fires, because fires, might attract insects and they get burned. They do, there is no group, I think, in the world that is as radically committed to practicing ahimsa as the Jain monks. They are vegetarians, but even within the vegetarian diet, for example, they will not eat vegetables that involve pulling a plant out of the ground. like potatoes, for example, because they think it causes harm to the tiny life forms in the earth. So they take ahimsa to a very different level that might be not possible for all of us. But I think if we keep the idea of the minimization of violence in our mind, then I think we mindfully live with ahimsa. Now question 6. Kahahu kavana agha paramakarala. So having asked the question, what is the highest virtue? And we see the answer, ahimsa. Now what is its opposite? What is the highest papa? The opposite of punya. Kahahu kavana agha paramakarala. And the answer again, like in all of these questions, is surprising. So having said that the highest virtue is not hurting others, ahimsa, you would think he would say, well, the greatest sin is causing pain to another. Himsa. But he says, Paraninda sama agha nagarisa, that there is no papa like, and the word is important, paraninda. Paraninda. Paraninda means denigrating, defaming another by words. You know, we have a beautiful bhajan that we sing, Hey Prabhu Anandadata, and then one of the lines is Ninda kisi ki hum kisi se bhool kar bhi na kare. May I never, because in forgetfulness, denigrate or defame another. Now, ninda is not simply criticism of another. Sometimes, you know, we're in a situation, we might belong to organizations and we're making decisions and we have to assess each other, and in that context we may have to make a critical judgment. You know, I think you would say, well, I think, you know, this committee did not do its job well. Or in your planning, you missed this important factor. That's not ninda. Ninda is, as I said, words that are meant to hurt the other, to diminish the other's sense of self, to denigrate, to defame, to make the other feel worthless and lacking in value. That is what ninda is, paraninda. Intentionally want to hurt at a very deep level of being. So why does he choose to identify paraninda rather than anything else? And here are my thoughts on this. And paraninda, I should add before I make the next point, paraninda in a very special way are words of defamation and denigration spoken to another about you. Not always directly to you, but spoken about you to someone else. Now, paraninda does not take much from you or I to do, right? All you need, it doesn't take much planning or effort. You need an attentive listener, and you can engage in paraninda. You don't need much time. You have somebody's attention for 1 minute. Paraninda is possible. Sometimes other kinds of ways of hurting people take a lot of planning, a lot of time, a lot of forethought about execution. But with little time and effort, the consequences can be very long lasting. The consequences of Paraninda, even spoken in 30 seconds, can be long lasting, even lifelong lasting. And sometimes a person will never regain his or her reputation or sense of worth or value. It could be permanent. So there are few actions that with such little effort and time can produce such long-lasting conversations. And the problem of Paraninda also is that the victims of Paraninda are not only the one about whom the malevolent or the words of defamation are spoken. If I am a member of a family and you speak words of Paraninda about me or someone else, it spreads to my wife, it spreads to my children. The whole family gets affected. So the effects are very, 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 very wide. Not only confined to the person about whom you speak, but all others who are related to that person in close ways. And as I said, the effects are very, very difficult to repair. Let me tell a small story. So there was a student of a guru, and he started to speak untrue and false words about his guru. He decided to engage in what we're describing here as Paraninda. But after some time, he felt some remorse in his heart, and he went to his teacher to ask for forgiveness. So the teacher listened to him, to his plea to be forgiven, and spoke to him very briefly and says, "Come back to me on a day that is very windy." So he was very puzzled why his teacher said, teacher didn't say, "I forgive you immediately, but come back to me on a day when there is a strong wind." So the student waited for a day that was very windy, and he came to his teacher. And when he came to the teacher had a bag that was filled with tiny feathers that he collected, bird feathers that were dropped. He had this bag full of tiny bird feathers. And he asked his student to tear the bag and hold it in the wind. So, easy task, right? He tore the bag and held it in the wind, and as you imagine, the wind started to blow these feathers in every direction, high and wide. So he said, "Is that all, Guruji?" And then the Guruji said, No, that's only the first task. Now I want you to go and bring back all of those feathers to me. Every one of them. Bring them back to this ashram. And he said, "That's impossible, Guruji. These feathers have gone far, high and wide. How can I ever find them? I may not even find a single one." And the Guru said, "Now you've understood what Paraninda is, what words can do. After they have spoken, you can't recall them. Because if you engage in Paraninda, you can be sure that your Paraninda others will pick up and disseminate far and wide. You may feel regret, but you can't control the outcomes now. You can't recall those words like the feathers that were taken everywhere." So the Guru said, "I forgive you, my child, but it's very important that you understand the effects of of Parninda. So we have to be avoiding Parninda is the practice of ahimsa, because words are violent and words can hurt sometimes even more than actions. It's not only, Parninda. We can speak a long time about Parninda, because we live in a time when it happens at all levels. Politically, there's a lot of Parninda going on. Politically, it happens every day in the highest offices of our country. But Parninda can be practiced against groups. When we speak, when we denigrate people of other races, we are engaging in racial Parninda. When we speak negative things about women, because women are like this, and you make these broad general statements, then it's a sexual Parninda. So there's race Parninda, sexual Parninda. If we speak negatively about all people of other religions, it's religious Parninda also. So groups can be the objects of focus of Parninda. So it's not surprising, because of the negative effects and the widespread negative effects of Parninda. It's not surprising that the teacher here says that this is one of the highest forms of power, negative action that a person can perform. So again, we have to be mindful about what we say about others. The Bhagavad Gita gives a very beautiful guidelines about speech. This is in chapter 17. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priya hitam chayat. That when we speak, our words must be anudvega karam. We must not speak to denigrate others, even when we have to tell them the truth. So he says, anudvega karam vakyam satyam. It doesn't mean that you must not speak the truth sometimes when truth speaking is necessary. But truth speaking doesn't have to be denigration. I taught, all of us find ourselves in situations like that. I was a professor for over 35 years at college. I'm reading student essays all the time. And they come to my office and they did a very poor assignment. So now how do I tell the truth? Because telling the truth is going to be helpful. I have to point out all of the problems with the essay, but at the same time, I don't want to diminish the student's sense of self-worth. And if I am mindful, I can find the words. But on the other hand, many teachers like that, who would not only criticize the essay, but also put the person down. Make the person feel worthless. So that's anudvega karam, words that I intentionally said to hurt. So truth speaking doesn't have to be denigration. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priyam. Priya means pleasant. Truth can be pleasant. Priyam, words must be pleasant. You must choose words that are pleasant. That's called priyam. And finally, so anudvega karam satyam priyam hitam. Your intention must always be constructive. So by students, what is my intention? Even though I have an essay that is very poor, what is my intention? To make this student a better student. And if I undermine this student's sense of self-confidence, I'm not going to make the student a better student. So I have to lift the student up, even though I have to point out, well, here's where you could have done things differently, or your research was, was incomplete, and so on. And then the Gita's guidelines are very beautiful. Satyam Priyam Hitam. Truth, sweet, and constructive. How to speak. And now the final question. I'll be brief on this for the sake of time, but as I said, you can read the last chapter of the book. Manasa roga kahahu samujhai. He asks, what are the diseases of the mind? And the teacher says, moha sakala vyadina karamula. So he gives in his answer, he gives a long list of what he called the diseases of the mind. But he says the root disease, moha sakala vyadina, the fundamental disease of the mind is ignorance. Ignorance is the root disease from which all other diseases of the mind proceed or flow. He uses the word moha here, but moha is mental confusion, so it's also ignorance. So, what is this avidya that the teacher here identifies as the root cause? So just a short answer. Again, turning to Bhagavad Gita, there's a very beautiful verse where Sri Krishna says, one who knows this really knows. Yaf pashyati sapashyati. One who knows this has overcome ignorance. So what does this person know? Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram. Vinashyatsva vinashyantam yaf pashyati sapashyati. If you know this is you already know. You have overcome ignorance. And what do you know? Samam sarveshu bhuteshu. Sarveshu bhuteshu. In all beings, sarveshu bhuteshu samam. Equally. What is equally existing in all beings? Tishtantam parameshwaram. That the Lord Parameshwara exists equally in everyone. To see the divine existing equally in all beings. Samam means in the same way. Sarveshu bhuteshu. Everyone is included. Sarveshu bhuteshu. No one is excluded. Vinashyatsva vinashyantam. The imperishable, that which never dies. The imperishable in all of these perishable forms. The body is perishable. But in the perishable forms, to see the imperishable equally existing is knowledge. One who sees this truly sees, truly knows. So this is the ignorance that we have to overcome. When we see each other, we have to see the existence of the divine in each one. It is because ignorance is regarded as a principal human problem that we give so much value in our tradition to jnana, to wisdom. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate Bhagavad Gita. That there is nothing greater, no higher purifier in this world than knowledge or wisdom, because the problem is one of avidya or ignorance. This is the reason why we honor the Guru so much, because the Guru, first and fundamentally, is a teacher. The word Guru itself means one who removes ignorance. The remover of the Guru is defined as the remover of ignorance. And unless a Guru is not engaging in that kind of work of removing ignorance. The Guru is not really a Guru performing the role of a Guru, bringing people to the knowledge of the divine. If you look at the beautiful words of we chant Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu. That's one mantra in a beautiful composition attributed to Shankara, Guru Stotram. And every verse of that composition speaks of the role of the Guru as the one who gives knowledge and removes ignorance. Ajnana timirandhasya. When my eyes were covered, he uses the example of cataract. When my eyes were covered, you have cataract, advanced cataract, you don't see. Or you see in a very blurred way. Ajnana timirandhasya. When my eyes were covered with the cataract of ajnana, of ignorance. Ajnana timirandhasya. Jnananjana shalakaya. And the teacher with the ointment of wisdom cleared my vision. Ajnana timirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya tatpadam darshitami, and showed me, revealed to me tatpadam. What tatpadam is? Bhagavan. And opened my eyes to see samam sarveshu bhuteshu, the divine existing in my own self and in all. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That is the teacher I bow to. And the third verse is, then follows Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I will stop here. I was timing myself 10 minutes on each question, so I will complete today about even 5 minutes. Over. Yes, please.
So when you touched on the topic of Papa, Bhagavan said that the person listening and the person speaking also, we are taking the person whom we are speaking of, we're taking all their Papa on us.
Yes.
We are accumulating theirs, and we're adding to the baggage that when we were born, whatever bad karmas we came with, we're adding those demerits to Papa by speaking ill of us.
That's correct. That's correct. All right, but I like your point because I think that sometimes we don't anticipate that somebody is coming to us with paraninda, but they find us in a vulnerable position. And immediately they begin to speak and defame another. What do you do? I think we should not provide a supportive hearing to that. You could politely move away. Or you could say, I'm really not interested in listening to this kind of speech that denigrates or defames another. So we have to be sure, and I take this point from your comment, Sita, that we do not provide any kind of receptivity. We don't encourage it by responding in a way that suggests, I like to hear this kind of stuff. Tell me more. Because it means that I'm deriving some pleasure by listening to another person being maligned or defamed. And we should not get any joy. Something is really wrong with us ethically if listening to someone being denigrated, defamed, maligned brings some joy to our heart. That kind of behavior is condemned by Tulsidas. He says, some people are like, when they hear paraninda, not the one who speaks, but when they hear paraninda about another, it's like as though they have found a treasure at the side of the road.
Tell me more.
Huh?
Tell me more.
Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more about this twist, And we should not be so empty in our hearts and minds that it will take negative stories about another to make us happy. our joy should have a higher source than the suffering of another. So I think, yeah, I agree with you, we should not be receptive. Because I think if we are receptive, then we will carry some of the burdens, as you said, of that papa with us. So even to protect ourselves, like sometimes when we peel certain kinds of vegetables, we put some oil in our hands so that it doesn't stick to us. Make sure that you oil yourself well so that parninda doesn't stick. Does not stick to you, that you remain like that. It is like that lotus example that is always used. Padma patram imam basa. The water doesn't wet it. We have to be like that in this world. Like a lotus leaf. It's never saturated with water. So we not allow Padminda to saturate us. It's what we call in our own language gossip. Padminda is gossip about the others, which unfortunately it's a very popular pastime for many people. So I'm happy to share these words with all of you. And then, we'll look at my schedule and then consider another topic to share with you in the coming weeks and months. So thank you for the opportunity to share.
Yes,
And now pass on back to our Shepherd.